This is a Facebook Live session with Bianca Ramsay and me, Colm Scriven. I really hope we are live. I know these things take a bit to come on, so I would just check that I can see the live session starting. This is the embarrassing bit to these sort of sessions, as you wait to see them starting. Yes, I see us going live. Okay, right. So, there we go. Right. So I'll keep that session open. So in case, so if you've got any questions you'd like to ask, please put them up on the session. And once we've finished the talk today, we'll try and ask as many questions as we can. So welcome today. Today's session is about dog listening and dog grooming. And I have with me today Bianca Ramsay, who is an experienced dog listener and dog groomer. I'll do a quick intro of myself before we start. My name's Colm Scriven. I'm a dog listener based in the west coast, in the west of Scotland, in a town called Paisley. I've been dog listening for, I don't know, it's about 8 or 9 years now. And I also take my dog Jenna into school to work with the kids. I have a social enterprise called Doggy Chillin' CIC, and we have a number of programs. We have a reading program where the kids read to the dog. We have a course where we teach dog listening over a 2-term period to young people. And recently we introduced a new program which was helping people with difficulty attending school. And I was getting them to work with Jenna and building up their confidence coming into school. So that's a bit about me. I'd like to introduce you now to Bianca, who I said before is a dog listener and dog groomer. And today she's going to be talking about how we can help our dogs when they are going through grooming, based upon her experience as a dog listener and a dog groomer. So welcome, Bianca. Maybe you'd like to introduce yourself, please.
Hi. I'm Bianca. I'm based in Scotland, Angus, Scotland, which is close to Dundee, if you don't know where that is. I've been a dog groomer for something like 20 years now, and I've been a dog listener for about 8 years. My business name is Curious Canines Dog Behaviour and Training. Do you want to just continue from there?
Sorry, I wasn't sure that was you finished.
Yeah, that's me.
Thank you. I just wanted to sort of ask you about how you actually got into dog grooming in the first place.
I actually started with a friend. She was looking for a groomer for her dog. I mean, at the time, I actually had a greyhound, which obviously needed absolutely no grooming. But this friend was looking for a groomer for her Welsh Springer. And she couldn't find anywhere that, she felt comfortable leaving her dog. A lot of places, they didn't even run on an appointment system. It was just you turn up and you left your dog there and you collected it at the end of the day kind of situation. So she decided to learn, how to groom her own dog. And she started looking for courses, which kind of got me interested because I thought, this grooming thing sounds quite interesting. I had, quite a bit of experience working with animals anyway. So she never became a dog groomer, but she learned enough to groom her own dog. But I eventually got in touch with the Pet Industry Federation. They run courses for groomers. And I set myself off down to Newcastle to do a grooming course. And that's how it started. I had no idea whether I was going to be any good at it, whether I would enjoy it. As I say, I just knew absolutely nothing about grooming. No actual experience because I'd never had a dog that needed grooming. So it was a new thing to me. But yes, I obviously did like it.
How long ago was that then?
That was 92. I started training.
Goodness.
Yeah.
So you would have been about 5 or 6 at that time then?
Yeah, that's right.
And so when you were grooming, what were the sort of issues that you sort of started to see with dogs?
I knew from my first day in actually arriving at the grooming school, which had about sort of 4 grooming tables set up, quite a large place. It was a big kennels complex and cattery as well. And there was this poor spaniel that was completely matted to the skin, having its coat shaved off, and it was not happy. I mean, the poor dog was not happy. I mean, the people treated the dogs with kindness, consideration. You know, there was no rough handling or anything like that. You know, the animals were all treated very well. But I mean, it was obvious that some dogs just did not cope very well, especially when they come in matted. And I think it took them the whole day actually, because they had to keep stopping just to give the dog a break. So yeah, that, I mean, day one, I could see, I thought, this isn't an easy job. This is definitely a job with you know, problems. It's not all about just making poodles look nice and fluffy.
And what sort of things in the early days did you try to do to resolve these difficulties that you came across?
I mean, the usual things that groomers do, you know, obviously treating the dog with as much kindness as you can. I mean, you know, nobody wants to rough handle a dog. You have to be as kind as possible. Also, giving the dog a break. You know, you've got a stressed out dog, giving it a break, you know, so you have to keep stopping, taking it off the table, you know, allowing it to calm down, settle. If you continue with a dog that you know, is getting stressed out, that stress is just going to build up, and then you're going to end up getting a bite. It's not good for the groomer. We need all our fingers to be able to groom dogs. So yeah, getting bitten is not ideal.
You
And it's
already
not a
learning.
great thing. You
You're
know, for a
already
dog,
learning. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, for a dog to get to that stage where it does actually bite is gone beyond, you know, ideal.
And it suggests that people aren't listening to the dog that's communicating with it either.
And yeah, that's it. You know, there's a tendency to sort of keep working on a dog until it reaches the point where it does actually lash out. And certainly then that was, you know, the sort of thinking 30 years ago was just carry on.
Yes.
Whereas now there is a tendency, even people that aren't into dog listening, there is a tendency to, you know, look for the signs that a dog's going to bite. You know, the starting to curl their lips, lip licking, you know, all those little signs, their body's going rigid, that they start to, the little signals that they give to us, that tells us they've had enough. You know, this is starting to build into something they are not coping with.
And I suppose that sort of leads then on to dog listening. So how did you come across dog listening then? What sort of took you there?
Really, by pure chance, actually. I'd been grooming for about 20 years by this time.
That was.
Are we getting some?
Sorry, what happened was that I jumped onto the Facebook session and the audio came on. I switched it off. Sorry.
It's okay. I'm glad you're in control of this.
Well, I hope so. It's so much more
absolute disaster. But yeah, I've been grooming for about 20 years, and after you've been grooming for that length of time, it being quite a physical job, I was looking for something a bit easier to do. And I'd always liked the idea of training dogs, or by this stage, I was very interested in dog behaviour because of all the issues and what you see a dog going through and the stress. And, you know, you try to deal with it as best you can. You try and show them kindness. You try and minimise it as much as you can. But yeah, I became very, very interested in why dogs behave like this, because they're not dogs that have come from homes where they've been ill-treated. You know, they're certainly not ill-treated in the salon. So where does all this aggression come from, and grumpiness? So yeah, I'd become very interested in dog behaviour. So I started reading lots of books about training and behaviour. And I actually started subscribing to the Association of Pet Dog Trainers, because they have quite an extensive library of books that you can borrow, although I'm sure that's all online these days. Yeah, and just read lots and lots of books, but they were all much about the same, to be quite honest. And it was just by pure chance I came across Jan's book in a shop, The Dog Listener. And I'd been a horsey person as well. I kept horses for years. And I had read The Man Who Listens to Horses by Monty Roberts. And I noticed that Jan's book, the foreword, was by Monty Roberts. And I thought, this book's got to be worth reading. I must have this. So got the book and found it absolutely fascinating. And it was just completely different from everything else I had read. Really, you know, getting inside what makes a dog tick, rather than just trying to deal with the symptoms all the time, deal with the aggression, deal with the unwanted behaviour. It was about, well, why is the dog behaving like this? What causes it to behave like that? Looking at their natural behaviour, looking into how they communicate with each other. So I found that just really, really refreshing, and a completely different approach. And once I had read The Dog Listener, I just put all the other dog books to one side and just started reading all Jan's books, and kind of read my way through them. And then there was another couple of years passed, and there was a lot of things happen, as things do in life. But there was a lot of things happened, and I didn't really take it any further. But I did eventually go on one of Jan's courses. And did eventually become a dog listener.
Brilliant. And it's all history.
Yeah, that's really that, yeah.
Just sort of quick shout out to Ali, who's just said, hi, Bianca, hi, Colin. And also there's a few likes from people. So thanks, folks, for checking and saying hello. So how did... you obviously can't see any of this at all. It's all going on behind the scenes. So how did what dog listening then help with your grooming? What sort of things helped you sort of change what you were doing? I mean, you're already talking about observing behavior and taking your time and using kindness, but what else were you?
Well, just applying the sort of basic principles of dog listening, and the first one being the reuniting rule. And that was the first thing I put into place in the salon. Anytime a dog came in, and when I trained as a dog groomer, we were kind of told that the minute the dog comes in the door, you put your eyes on the dog and you're observing the dog and you're looking at its coat and you're looking at the way the dog's moving and you're taking in everything about the dog. So the poor dog has all this pressure put on it because it's being stared at by this person. Whereas if you take that away from the dog and just completely ignore it, allow the dog to chill out as you would any time you're reuniting, and it gives the dog time and space to figure out what the salon's about. And I usually ask owners, to let them off lead. Because quite often people come in and they're saying to the dog, sit, behave, and the dog's on lead and the dog's trying to smell things and it's trying to, do all sorts. And I just usually say, yeah, just, let the dog off lead and just let it have a sniff about. And just give the dog time and space to relax. And I usually use that time to speak to the owner. So while the dog's doing that, I just speak to the owner, find out what they want from the groom, find out, about any health problems, issues, anything I should know about the dog. And usually by that time, most dogs have kind of settled to a certain extent. And of course, as you know, the next step is to invite the dog towards you. And if the dog's ready, it will come to you. And if the dog's not ready, it's not going to come to you. And then you have to let it have more time to settle. And then try again later. But just doing that one small thing makes quite a difference, because it just takes all the pressure off them, allows them to relax.
Brilliant.
So that would be one thing. And using sort of less restraints as well on the table. For safety, a dog has to be clipped onto what we call a control bar, which runs along the top of the table. And there's a strap around the dog's neck and it's clipped onto there, which is all adjustable, so it's at a comfortable position for the dog. They usually have a belly strap on as well to make them stand. So I try and use that as little as possible. So the dog's allowed to sit and it's allowed to move around. It can change its position. So again, just allowing the dog to relax. And it gives the dog the sense of freedom, even though the dog can't escape from the table. It's still lost its flight response. It can't escape. So there is a certain amount of fear there. And you have to realize that is putting a dog into a situation where it is going to feel uncomfortable, and it is more likely to bite, and it is more likely to get stressed because it's lost its flight. It can't get away. So trying to use less restraints, muzzles are used a lot in grooming situations. I would only use them if absolutely and utterly necessary, and only if it's for a few minutes, maybe to cut a dog's nails or something like that. And just doing those little things make a big difference. And that's just to the general dogs. I mean, I don't know if anybody remembers, there used to be a cartoon on the TV many years ago called Taz, the Tasmanian Devil. He was always really grumpy. Right. And he had like big teeth and a big mouth. And when he moved, he sort of span round in circles. Well, that's what some dogs are like when you're trying to groom them. It's really, it's like trying to hit a moving target sometimes, because they're fidgeting so much and they're spinning round, and so that's a bit what it's like. Yes, I've groomed many Tasmanian devils.
And I'm guessing too that the sort of the fundamental thing about all this is just time and not rushing it.
Yeah, and this is where it's very difficult, because dog groomers are under pressure. There's always too many dogs to groom in a day. They're under pressure. They're working against the clock. They're trying to time it so that, dogs are picked up when they're supposed to be picked up and dogs are finished for a certain time. There's a lot of stress. It's a very pressured job, actually. The groomers are pressured, and therefore the dogs start to feel the pressure. And there's nothing worse, actually, than having to rush to finish a dog. That's just not good. Because that's the point where the dogs do start to fidget. They pick up on your stress. So you really do have to, keep it as calm as possible.
So I'm guessing too that you would you couldn't take on as many clients as you might want to beforehand, because maybe you have a set time for each dog, because you have a booking system. So with the dog's welfare in mind, you can't pack it out because things may
No.
take longer, or you can only do so much and then have to come back again.
There's some dogs will cope better than others, and you soon get to know the dogs, because same dogs you see all the time. That come in every 6 to 8 weeks normally. Same dogs all the time. So you get to know the ones that can cope and the ones that you can do in a set time, and they'll be okay. Doesn't mean to say those dogs are treated any differently, because if you start to put a dog under pressure, it might actually appear to be fine. But if you're continually putting that dog under pressure and not treating it right, and making it feel uncomfortable each time it comes in, there will come a point, especially as the dog gets older, there'll come a point where that dog will not cope. So you have to invest in your future as well, and you have to invest in that dog's future, so that it can continue to be groomed into its old age.
Thanks. Shout out there for Anne O'Rourke, one of my clients in Scotland. So thanks for checking in with us. And I hope you're well, because I thought I'd seen something recently on Facebook that you'd injured your leg. So so thank you. So just so then, if someone, I noticed there was a question recently on the forum about someone having their dog being banned or yellow carded by a groomer. What advice would you give to someone who is taking their dog to a groomer for the first time?
Right. Well, I mean, I would say if you have a puppy, get your puppy to the groomer as soon as you can. As soon as your puppy's had its vaccinations, and it's got the all clear from the vet to go out, that's when I would start taking it to the groomer. I normally don't charge anything for the first puppy visit. It's just an introduction to the salon. And usually groomers set time aside. So there's a quiet time where they have puppies in, or dogs that are new to the salon. So yeah, definitely get your puppies there as soon as you can. If it's a dog that is an adult and it's just its first time to the groomer, again, get it there as soon as you can. Don't wait until its coat's matted and then think, oh, I think the dog needs a haircut. Because if you're taking a dog that hasn't been groomed before and it's matted, it's going to need an awful lot of work doing to it. And that sometimes is mission impossible, because the dog just doesn't cope. So think ahead. If you're taking on a dog, think ahead. Is it the kind of dog that needs professional grooming? And if so, find yourself a dog groomer as soon as you can. That's very important. Now, the other thing is, once you've actually found your groomer and you're taking your dog for its first visit, make a plan. Decide how you're getting there, how you're transporting your dog, how to do that with as little fuss as possible. And again, keeping things as calm as possible. I've had clients turn up to have their dogs groomed, and they turn up with a little longer lap for driving, and the dog's paws are on the steering wheel. I've had that 10 times, which I think is actually illegal. You're not supposed to drive with your dog loose in the car, but it happens quite a lot. And then they'll say, oh, but this is the only way a dog will travel in the car. So if you're having travel problems, that's another whole issue. You need to get that sorted out. If your dog's not traveling well, you really need to address that, because it's going to have to go to the groomer, and it's going to have to go to the vet. So, but anyway, make a plan. And decide where you're going to park and things like that, where you're going, and just make a plan how you're going to get there. But also what I would say is, before you leave to go to the groomer, make sure you leave the house calmly. Your dog's calm before it leaves. just as we would any time that we're leaving the house with our dogs. The dog must be calm and we should go through the door first. So that's something you should do before you even get to the car, and make sure your dog's going to be transported safely. You can also use stop, start, change direction before you get into the salon, which is a technique for people that don't actually know what it is, just a technique of going back and forward. I'm sure you'll find videos and instructions how to do it, or through some of the dog listener books. And that helps to calm the dogs down before they go in. And it just reassures them that you're the person in charge, you're the decision maker, and they will calm down. And it just means you have to give yourself 5 minutes before your appointment, and find somewhere quiet to do this, and just spend a little bit of time. I usually do it before I go into the vets. Obviously, I don't take my dogs to groomers because I'm a groomer. They don't need to go to somebody else's salon, but I do have to take my dogs to the vet, and I use that as well, because I do have a dog that's a rescue that doesn't always cope in there, and just doing some stop, start, change direction outside really helps. As they take it in short sessions, the first one should just be an introduction to the salon, possibly putting the dog on the table. But it's how you do it. That's the important thing. If it was in my salon, as I say, the dog would be ignored when it comes in. It would then be invited towards me once it's settled. And quite often what I do for the first visit is actually, groomers have tables that raise and lower, and you can put your table down really quite low to about 18 inches. So most dogs sort of spaniel size and bigger can actually jump up onto the table. And I tend to sit on the table and get the dog to come and join me. So again, it's not as frightening, it doesn't feel so alien, and you're not going towards the dog and picking it up and invading its space. That's very scary. So again, if you can invite them, if there's a very small dog, I actually have a step as well that I sometimes use. So if the table's not low enough for very little dogs, there's a step. And I don't do that every time dogs come in. Once they get to know me and once I know they're okay with me, then I can just invite them towards me and pick them up and put them on the table. But for this first few times, it can be quite scary. And also, if you have a dog that's been very, very difficult in a salon, that's the best way to get them onto the table, and it's less frightening. So you at least get your grooming session off to a good start that way, and a less stressed dog.
Thank you.
So yeah, there's a lot of little things you can do, and also for the owners to work with their dogs at home. So do groom your dogs at home, and handle them all over. Pick their feet up, look inside their ears, put your hands all over their body, so they get used to that. They get used to people feeling the sensation of being touched in places that you normally wouldn't touch your dog. So that's really important. And also reward them with food while you're doing that as well. A few rewards in there just helps, to make a good association that this is something nice. It's not something to be frightened of. They don't understand. We're just trying to give them a bath and a haircut, and dogs just don't get it sometimes. Very scary.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So just conscious coming to the end of this sort of chat. Anything else you'd like to add? You've covered so many issues here. It's been fantastic. Thank you.
I think I've actually got lots more written down as well. But yeah, one thing I would say, if you are having difficulties with your dog, and I know there's lots of people out there that do come across problems, and if your dog has bitten a groomer, or it's growled, or it just doesn't settle, it fidgets, as I say, it's like Tasmanian devil spinning round on the table sometimes. Make a plan with your groomer. Speak to your groomer and say, right, what are we going to do with this? And break it down, have an organised plan. So you maybe even take your dog there every week. every fortnight, whatever you think is appropriate, and do it in little sessions. So the dog doesn't have to go there and be there for 2 or 3 hours at a time and tolerate lots. And it might just be it goes for a bit of a trim and a tidy up, then it gets a little bit more done to it the next time. So it gets done in little sessions so the dog doesn't get stressed out. So I would say work out a plan with your groomer if you're having problems, rather than just say, oh, the dog bit the groomer, I can't go back there anymore. And, no, and don't blame the groomer as well. Quite often people are trying their best. So yeah, that would be one piece of advice. Work out a plan.
Thank you. That's been really useful for me as well, because I've never taken our dogs to the groomers. I mean, they spend all their time in front of the mirror anyway, so they don't actually need it. Yeah, that's been really helpful. You had a shout out there from, I don't know, someone that you know, Julie Ewerby Brooks. Is that someone that you know? They said,
yes.
Yeah, well, they're listening out. And Ali's just said, I love this, Bianca. It's so important that we choose dog groomers who can take time. And I think that came through a lot when what you're saying. It's taking time, breaking things down, and, not rushing the dog. Just seeing if there are any questions came up. No, so I think that's us end of the chat. If anyone's got any questions, fine, fire them up on the comments on the stream. Otherwise, we'll call it a day. If there are any follow-up questions when we finish this, post them up to the group, and Bianca or one of the others will answer them. Good stuff.
Yeah, well, thanks everybody for listening and the messages. That's very nice.
Yeah.
I see some messages here.
Yeah, I think we're getting off lightly here.
Yeah. Well, at least somebody's tuned in and they're listening.
That's right. Well, to be honest, it's me. I've opened up about half a dozen sessions. So it looks like there's more of us on the session than there actually are. So, brilliant. Okay, so I think what we'll do is we'll end the session if there's no more. And thanks for your time and your expertise. That was really helpful, Bianca.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, right, here goes. End the stream.